Welcome to the Radio Vagabond podcast, episode 96. I'm still in Washington, D.C., and in this episode, I'll continue talking to Rob from Trip Hacks D.C. that took me around the National Mall, and to Ian, the lobbyist.
Meet Palle Bo, a digital nomad from Denmark on an epic journey around the world.
My name is Palle Bo, and I'm a longtime radio producer. In 2013, I started planning to become a digital nomad and a full-time traveler. 3 years later, I had sold my house, my car, and all my furniture. And in July 2016, I set out on a quest to visit every country in the world.
This is the Radio Vagabond podcast.
Could you see yourself being a lobbyist for a private company where you had to advocate some opinions that you don't have yourself?
No. And I've wrestled with this, and I've talked to my wife about it, because the fact remains, like, I could work for another 6-7 years and make enough money and just retire if I really wanted to do it. But I would hate myself. I can't do it. It's just not... I care about people too much to screw them over in some...
But what if it's a good, decent company or a good, decent country? Because countries have lobbyists here in DC as well.
They do. I guess it would depend on the situation, but it's hard for me to work in a private sector that I know when it comes to like wages and stuff and wage inequality. I just care too much about wage inequality and health inequities to be able to put myself in that position. What I do instead is I opened a music store in Baltimore. So I own the only music store in the city of Baltimore. But the reason I did that was because it was a blighted community that I live in. And that's for profit, I mean, I don't make any money off of it right now because, it's just a small little guitar store. But in the long run, I think, we'll make some money off of it, but also it helps my community. It impacts my community in a positive way. So I take my DC salary. I live in Baltimore City, which affords me the opportunity to open a business there and help that way. So it's just a different way, I'm not a socialist or anything like that. I'm not even a democratic socialist. I just believe that I don't believe that CEOs should be making money off of people's suffering. And I don't believe that any CEO needs to make $13 million a year. I just don't believe that. I think that's ridiculous. And I think one of the problems with this country, and you see that with the election of Donald Trump, is that people believe that he's going to make them rich as he is. And I truly believe that they think, well, he got rich and so he'll make us rich. It's a terrible, terrible waste of thought that's going to happen. And it will definitely be the opposite. So yeah, he will enrich himself.
This episode is brought to you in part by Hotels25.com. Whenever you need a hotel anywhere in the world, go to Hotels25.com. That would get you the best price. Hotels25.com searches a bunch of the biggest hotel sites in one simple search. Hotels25.com, it's best price guaranteed. Living in DC, there must be a lot of people talking about politics all the time. Do you feel that you've become more into politics than before you lived here?
Yes.
This is Rob from Trip Hacks DC again.
Definitely people are very up on current events here. And people are generally very highly educated and intelligent. So politics does come up. But I generally find that in Washington, D.C., probably like in any other city, it really depends on who your friends are and what your social circle's like. So if you want to be in a group that all they talk about is national politics all the time, you can certainly find that here. I personally am not quite as interested in that, and so my friends aren't quite so into that sort of thing. I actually am a lot more into local politics, personally, city hall and that sort of thing, than I am the national scene.
Do you feel the U.S. has become more divided in the last 12 months?
It certainly seems that way, but you know, it can be hard to tell sometimes here. People come here from all over the country, and so really, I'm just trying to pick up on what everyone's feeling, and so it's different where you're actually traveling around our country. You might have actually a better take on this than I do, because you're visiting a lot of different places and talking to different people and experiencing it firsthand, whereas I'm sort of here most of the time, and what I'm experiencing is what people are bringing here to me. So I actually would be curious to hear your take on that as well.
I've noticed that discussions between the right and the left can be very heated. I even spoke to someone that said, I wouldn't be surprised if this actually became almost like a civil war. I think that's putting it a bit too strong.
I certainly hope not. That's a little terrifying to even think about.
Now we're in the shade of the Washington Monument. Let's just stay here. Wow, it's big. I'm leaning up. It's very big. So what can we see from here?
So from this spot at the base of the Washington Monument, you can see pretty much all of the major sites on the National Mall. So to the west, the Lincoln Memorial is down over there.
That's where Lincoln is.
That's where
with a pigeon on his head.
That's where the big seated statue of Lincoln is located. If you have seen Forrest Gump, you probably remember the scene where Forrest gives a speech and then runs into the reflecting pool in front of the Lincoln Memorial. Yeah. And then to the east, we have the Capitol, although you can't see it through the trees right now. That big red building right there, that is the Smithsonian Castle, so that's the headquarters of the Smithsonian Institution.
That was the first Smithsonian?
That's right, yeah. So that was the first...
Then they ran out of space and started opening up more.
So the Smithsonian was actually founded by a man named James Smithson, not an American, an Englishman, who donated his family fortune to the United States for the creation of the Smithsonian Institution. So the original castle building there was the first museum, and over the years they have expanded. So James Smithson's gift was actually to the U.S. government. He was not a museum curator, he was a scientist himself, and so he knew he wanted to start this, but he had no idea how, so he just took a leap of faith and hoped that sending his money to the U.S. government, they wouldn't just pocket it, and they would actually start the Smithsonian. And so it's actually been an agency of our government ever since, due to how it was founded.
And now it's the building, as far as I hear, is more or less the office building. There's not exhibitions in there anymore?
So it is an office building, and it is the official visitor center. So if you go in there, you can see a scale model of the National Mall. There are museum staff who can help you figure out which exhibits you want to see. And then they do have a few small pieces from each of the various Smithsonian museums. So you can get a little taste of what you might find in each of them.
And that's pretty close to the Capitol. On that end of the mall.
Yep.
What else can we see?
So if you look to the north, you can see the White House right there.
I can see it.
You can see it, yeah. So that's the White House peeking up behind the trees right there. And then you can also see the Eisenhower Executive Office Building to the left. It's the gray, greenish, bluish building right there. And so that's an office building where most White House staffers keep their offices. And if you've seen the show Veep, that is where Vice President keeps her office in the show. And so they often show an exterior shot of that building if you watch the show.
Ian can also see the country is being more divided after Trump became president.
Yeah, it's upsetting, especially with social media. I've lost friends because of it.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. I mean, when it comes to Trump, I'm a Jew. He's a racist, and he's a xenophobic, race-baiting person. And so when I see that happening, especially when it's, Black, Hispanic, Mexicans, whatever it is, not, you know, he didn't even mention Jews in his Holocaust statement. You know what I mean? How am I supposed to react to that as a Jew? You know what I mean? Like, where you mention the greatest atrocity in modern era and you don't even mention the people that it happened to. If you support Donald Trump, you support that, in my eyes. You know what I mean? Like, you support, if you unabashedly support what he does in every way, shape, or form that he does it, I'm sorry, but you have race issues. You have problems with people who are not white, or white Christian, I guess you could say. And it's upsetting. It's really upsetting. But I've also gotten into arguments with people that are super left-wing that voted for Jill Stein as a protest vote to Hillary Clinton. And it's like, how did that work out for you? Like, did it work out well for you? I mean, it's, you know, it was silly. And it just, you know, it caused a lot of arguments, caused a lot of problems. It's really an upsetting time in America.
But really taking discussions with friends to a level that you lose friends over politics, that's disturbing.
It is. I wouldn't say, I mean, it's only happened to a couple, you know, and it's more like, oh, we're not Facebook friends anymore. I had one regrettable experience, and I don't put it so much on myself. I'm not apologetic about it, but it did have to do with Jill Stein vote, and a friend's father happened to comment on my post, and he went really rabid about it, and he viciously attacked some of my friends, you know, on the post, and he was not very civil about it, and then that friend found out about it, and, you know, felt that we were attacking her father, and it fell apart in that way, and it was really regrettable. But at the same time, you know, I try and keep an open mind. I don't get into Twitter fights or anything like that. I try and stay off Facebook most of the time. I'm not on it today when everybody's talking about the shootings. But, you know, I'm here in DC, and I'm doing the best that I can. I know that my words have impact on lawmakers, and so I try and you know, keep it as level-headed as I can. It's hard sometimes.
And I can take anything you can throw at me, and nothing can get me down. Life is looking so bright, the sun is up again. I'm feeling like I could fly. No clouds in my way, no. And I'm living the good life. And I'm living the good life now. I'm living the good life, and nothing can get me down, no.
On my last night in Washington, D.C., I went to Union Station, and outside I started speaking to a guy that was sitting on a street corner with his piano. He calls himself Unknown Pianist number 100. And I thought that I really just wanted to have his music in the background as I'm saying goodbye. But he really wanted to talk. So don't be confused that I will say goodbye in a few seconds. The rest of this episode is with this amazing guy. He used to be homeless.
I was living on the street, and I was sleeping on the grates. I also had a bed in the shelter, but I came out and slept on the grates. And it was a young guy, and plus I would sleep on the streets. I had a bed in the shelter, but I would still come outside and sleep on the grates. Why? It was fresh air, and I was trying to do a thing. This was before the guardian angels were allowed to come into Washington, D.C. I considered myself a guardian angel. And I was younger and stronger, so I was going around making sure everybody was all right on the grates. And I'm sitting there on the grates, and I'm hungry, and this guy, we late at night, there's no money, and this guy is sitting on the grates with me. He's got no shoes, he got shoes and no socks on, he's freezing. And he says, I said, man, he said, I'm hungry. I said, okay, we're gonna get some food, but we got, you know, we can't do anything, so we have to wait for the food to come. And we sat there, and he says, oh man, the guy says, I'm so hungry, I have to believe you. And he laid back down. He said, I don't know what you're talking about, but I'm going to believe you. He laid back down, and I laid down. Before my head hit the thing, this guy comes up with this big box and says, hey man, you guys hungry? We just had an office party. And he says, "Are you hungry?" Of course, we didn't say anything. We just looked at each other. And he's looking at, he says, "No, I'm serious, man. It's like brie and pate and all of this, you know, and the fancy spoons too with it, right?" And I'm saying, "Wow, wow." And I ended up taking them. I ate some with the guy, and I ended up taking it back in the shelter, making sandwiches.
Nice.
And I fed all the alcoholics, you know, guys in there trying to drink themselves to death from the bootleggers, bootleggers in the shelter. And it's so funny that the guys that go around to the soup lines to get the sandwiches, you see the lines backing up? And they were taking the sandwiches in the shelter and selling them to the guys. And I was putting them out of business.
No.
Right? So I didn't make a lot of friends there. You know, because I was
trying to do something good.
I had these big old plates. You know, I'm making sandwiches and these big old plates with these sandwiches and potato chips and everything. And I'm going around giving it to the guys. The guy said, "Man, I ain't got no money." I said, "It's free." And I'm feeding everybody. I got all the stuff under my bed. And so, like, wow. Make sure you're in the right spot because I got my subwoofer and everything, right?
Yeah.
And you can't live without sub.
That would be a good ending to my Washington podcast. So I'm doing the voice. I'm from Denmark.
Denmark.
Yeah.
Well, still put a shrimp on a barbie for me anyway.
Yeah. And a Lego. I'm here in front of the Union Station, and I've just been speaking to unknown pianist number 100, and
Way to go! Look, all the lights are out right there.
yeah.
So how do you know when to stop? Right?
And it would be a good ending to this podcast from Washington, D.C. It's my final night here, and the sun is setting. It is absolutely beautiful in the area around Union Station. And tomorrow morning, I'm moving on to the next stop, which is going to be Atlantic City. I think that...
I can't work under these conditions. It's just too much.
You got a lot of equipment here.
No, I'm actually traveling light. Guess what?
You're traveling light?
Yes, I'm traveling light. Saturday, I saw a young man in his 20s playing with another guy, and they impressed me, which is a lot.
Yeah.
He says, I want to get with him, right? And he says he met me 5 years ago. He's 24. I met him 5 years earlier, and I told him to cover up. I gave him a whole bunch of information. 5 years later, I'm impressed with this cat, right? And he's the unknown. They're called the unknown ones. And I'm the unknown pianist.
So he took your name as well?
No, I don't know if he took it or it just happened to. I don't know. But I want to play with this. I'm going to ride on his coattail.
Oh, yeah.
You know, there's younger, surround myself, how Miles Davis did, surround yourself a bunch of young lions.
Yeah.
But I'm the unknown pianist and I'm coming through. The sun's getting ready to go down and I'm ready to go home.
It's beautiful right now.
Yeah. Thank you. These your keys.
Calling myself the radio vagabond.
Get out of here.
And I'm traveling to every country in the world.
My brother gave me the name. I lived on the street for years. I had it down to a science. He named me the Vagabond King because I had it down to an art here in D.C.
Wow.
And I walked the streets here, and he wrote a poem about me. Vagabond King. So you're the vagabond. I got several names. That's my rap name.
Cool.
Awesome. Vagabond King. Hey, I'm gonna
Yeah,
you got information here. Okay. and I'm ready to go. The sun's going. It's so weird. Like I lived on the street for so many years, and then I finally got. I just started. I'm 62. I just started driving 3 years ago. My father's 91, and I was like the black sheep, one, living on the street. But the whole time I lived on the street, I learned a lot of knowledge, man. I mean, how to treat people and how to, I've seen some things. I was just here, and some guy came past and put money in, and he was making a big noise. He was all dressed up, and he's making all this noise, and Jesus love you and all this stuff. And then this homeless guy came past, and he's real quiet. He walks up, he put $1 in there, and he says, play America the Beautiful when you get a chance. And I said, wow, this guy, and I know that dollar meant a lot to him.
Yeah.
And this other guy's throwing money in there, making all this noise. See, but I learned that when I was on the street. See, all those people sitting on that wall there, they're waiting for a truck to come. A sandwich truck.
Okay.
I used to hit the sandwich trucks when I was on the street. I used to hit the same truck at the next stop.
Yeah.
And I used to save I'd get mayonnaise, and I used to make sandwiches.
Yeah.
And it's so weird. I was at Thanksgiving. This lady says, she said, what does it feel like to be hungry? And I said, hungry? I said, all these soup lines around here. I said, there's all this food around here. All you need is some mayonnaise and some salt, spice. You can save up. And she turned off the microphone while I was talking. She wanted the sad story. I'm telling her, this is the Washington, D.C. Matter of fact, the shelter just around the corner was the model shelter. Now they had the culinary arts, gourmet foods being cooked in the shelter.
Oh.
And they send you to school and learn how to be a cook. You can go in the shelter and learn how to be a cook, gourmet cook, in the shelter.
Excellent.
So it's like this is America, man. It's so many things like Don King used to say, only in America, only in America. So many, there's no excuse. I was telling kids they should put everything in the shelter, go in the library and study for the next 3 years.
Yeah.
Just study.
Yeah.
Keep everything in the locker, or just get rid of everything, just a backpack it, Study for 3 years, or go in the military and sign a contract where you have to stay in school for the next 14 years, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Pick a hard course, This is America.
I got rid of everything, so all I
life,
have is just what's in my
You
suitcase.
know, I just moved, and I realized how much junk I have that's worthless. I mean, I had to get a truck to move it, and it's all junk.
Yeah.
It's nothing, I have my computer and my keyboard.
It was totally liberating to get rid of all my crap.
It takes,
But I did keep my vinyls. Vinyls are in storage.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You know what?
I couldn't get rid of those.
I have foot lockers full of junk, that I have to go look through to throw away.
Yeah.
And I know it's nothing in there.
No.
Little knickknacks and things like that. I'm so attached. But when I lived on the street, I learned how to get away from. Now I promised myself I wasn't going to let this happen again, and it happened again. Yeah. So now I got to start all over again.
Yeah.
Purge.
When I go back to live in Denmark in maybe 5-10 years time, I don't think I'll ever accumulate a lot of stuff. I think it'll be very, very.
If you let your guard down. If you let your guard down. My brother, he did all that. He gave away everything too, and now everything he has is he started buying watches. Old watches, and now he showed me the picture of his his house. It's full of clocks and watches, but his value it's so funny. His girlfriend bought him a computer. It took him a year to open it. He's just his value is in a different place. He sent me this ring, and he has a lot of jewelry. He has like 14 rings, and it's so funny when he used to walk down the street with his suits on. Everybody used to think he was a pimp because he had like 9 dogs, 9 dogs, and all this jewelry.
Wow.
But he didn't have a radio or TV.
No.
He drove all these muscle cars. He had like limousines, and he had the Porsche, all expensive cars. Now he doesn't have a car because he'd been through it. He told me, I just got my first car. He said, take your time fixing it up. He said, when you finish fixing it up, it's over.
It was the interesting part, getting it and fixing it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's telling me to make sure, unpack slowly. He's telling me to open up every little thing slowly. It's the fun part to see what kind of junk you brought with you. Why did you bring this here? Now I got to find somebody to give it to. It's so turf. But, everything is beautiful if you can get away from material and realize that. It's so funny that when there was a storage unit that shut down here, a big one, and they didn't tell the people. They had 3 days for the people to find out on their own.
Wow.
And I went there with a salvage guy, we looking through these lockers, and I'm saying, I'm looking at these lockers, I say, it's either junk in there, people saved all their junk, and I'm looking through this stuff, I say, it's nothing valuable here. No. It's every once in a while, I'm going through all these lockers. And after a while, I got to look in the locker, and I say, oh, this is a poor person. I can tell by looking in the locker. Now I know. And I found a ski bag. The guy his skis were so old that when I hit him up against the wall, big ski boots, they cracked.
Yeah. I spoke
They've
to
been
some
in there
guys,
so long.
some friends of mine, they had a storage facility, and they told me that there was someone putting a sofa in there, and they had this room for 3-4 years, and they paid more for the room than buying a new sofa.
There were people living in there. There were people living in the storage bins.
Whoa.
Because when I was looking through, there was a guy doing his sneakers with a toothbrush. And they said, well, he got 3 days to figure out what he's going to do. And I said, wow. I said, now, but this is so weird, though. The place where I lived at, they put all these houses and buildings up. And I was walking past a sewer hole, and I said, wow, the sewer hole was ready to fall in. All of the structure where I'm at, I'm saying, I just moved into a very expensive apartment, and I'm saying, this place could fall in.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I'm saying everything is, I have to soundproof my apartment. A good thing I live next door to a musician. I told him he had company the other week.
Yeah.
I could hear him in there talking, man.
No, talking.
Yeah,
talking.
but the raggedy apartment I was in, the walls were so thick, but I had to make a choice. I said I want to get someplace halfway decent in my life so I can.
What's the best part of living in DC?
It's the nation's capital. As people come here and people save up their whole life to come here, and I'm here, and they walk around and they say, "Oh, that's the White House." When they come out of the subway, the first thing they do is say, "Oh, there's the White House."
Oh my God!
And I say that's not the White House, but it's a nation's capital. People come here, and I guess when people come here, I can tell them that I've been here. My father was here, my grandfather was here, and I can say I've been here all my life. I seen the president go down the street and stuff, wave, and it's I'm in the nation's capital, man. It's patriotic. I've been wearing American flag since 85, and it's America, man. I have the president, the bobblehead. I have a President Trump bobblehead. I was in the Army.
I saw that yesterday. It was so funny.
A guy gave me one. It's so funny. It's a long story behind that. But the thing about it is, I was in the Army and I was in the Navy, and so I took an oath to honor the position of the president. I can't say anything bad about the president.
Not even the current one?
Yeah, I can't. No, because I can't, because I have to honor the position. I honor the position. And plus, for 8 years, I didn't hear any white people walk past me and say anything smart about. I'm saying if white people can honor for 8 years a president that they didn't want, I can honor this. If I can say I'm better than white people, I don't know. But I'm saying I'm going to show the respect that they showed me. I need to bring my little bobblehead out. You got to respect the position.
That's it. No more here from Washington, D.C. Next Monday, you can join me as I head out to Atlantic City, the Las Vegas of the East Coast. My name is Palle Beau. See ya.